Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to play some golf. Okay, so the game we are looking at is called Pocket Pro Golf, and this was designed quite a while ago in 2010 by Steve Sisk. It's a fairly simple game, but it has a few rules that may be not so clear to begin with. But it is, like I say, it's a fairly enjoyable little golf game in case you can't actually go and play golf itself. Now, what do we get with this Pocket Pro Golf? Well, let's begin with where you get it from. It is available on Board Game Geek. I will put the link in the description below. You can download the files and everything there. And you will have a 10-page rules document, which is, like I say, fairly clear. There's a few things that are kind of, well, took a few reads to kind of understand what was going on, but yeah, 10-page rules. You will get, there's a file there also for the tuck box or the card box. Now, I actually had to do 2 boxes because when you sleeve the cards for the game, they won't all fit in one of the boxes. So I actually had to make 2 boxes. What else do we need? Well, and also to play the game, you're going to need a selection of tokens or counters and 3 6-sided dice. Right, let's take a look and see the components in a bit more detail. And then we'll have a quick playthrough so that you guys can see how the game works. Right, there are a number of components, a number of different cards and tokens and counters that we need for the game, all provided in the PDF. These are the ones that are going to be common or shared or sort of used by everybody. And like I say, these will be in the center of the table between all the players, so they've got easy access. What do we have? Well, the first card is for indicating the wind and slope. And this is going to be used and rolled for every hole. And we have a token that we can use to actually show which direction the wind is for each hole that we play. What else? At the bottom, there is also a space for players to aim their shots. We'll discuss that a bit later. What else do we have? We have a leaderboard card that basically gives an indication in terms of score relative to par. So you've got -1, -2, up to -5, etc., etc. We have a yardage card. So this is a reference card so that you can easily see and translate the grid on the cards of your golf hole and how it relates to actual yardage. We also have a hole design reference card, which you can use to create custom holes based on real life golf courses. Obviously, you're going to need to have the details for those holes and those courses, but with this reference card, you can actually translate into holes for the game. You also have 3 dice. This is for when you are rolling your shots. And you also have skill token discs or shield token, what the hell's the matter with me? Skill token discs. And you should have 6 per player. And this is going to be put in the center of the board as a general reference or general supply. What's the matter with me today? Keep saying the wrong words. So these are the common cards. As we play the game and as I'm explaining, we'll be coming back to these and I'll show you exactly how they're used. Okay, each player will also be given their own set of club cards. So these are 4 cards giving you all the various clubs that you're going to be using as you play the game. In real life, of course, there are more clubs than this, but you essentially have a wedge, a driver, a putter, a 3-iron, 5-iron, 7-iron, and 9-iron. Again, we'll go through all the details a little bit later. I'm just showing you the components first. You will also have 4 playing pieces, and you will take from your allotment of 6 skill tokens at the center of the table. When you start the game, you will take 2 of them and place them on any card that you want. This is like your starting skill, your starting ability. So for example, maybe I want to have skill in the driver, or I want to be better at the driver. So I would put 1 skill token there. Okay. Maybe I also want to be fairly good with, sort of thing, maybe the 5-iron. So I'll put a skill token here in that skill token area. Now, these tokens represent your skill with the club. You can earn more during the game if you roll an 8. You can earn a skill token, but not if it's doubles. What else? And yes, you can use these skill tokens. You can basically discard them to affect the movement of your board. So that reflects your ability to avoid hazards or to play a better shot. Yeah, but like I say, when you use it, you discard it, it goes back into the pool, and you've got to try and earn more later on in the game. What else? Yeah, you're also going to use 4 playing pieces. Now, again, these can be discs like I've used here. They could be some kind of token, but every player will have a different color. So maybe player 1, maybe you, has red. Maybe the other person playing with you has yellow. But yes, you're going to need 4 of these. 1 will represent your ball as you're playing. So you'll be using this on the cards that represent the hole. There is another one that you will use on the wind and slope card to represent your aim, whether you basically aim center, draw, or fade. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. A third one will be used to show your current score on the leaderboard. Yeah, what's your current score relative to par? Yeah, hopefully it's up here, not down here. And the 4th piece, the 4th playing piece, will actually be used on your club card to denote which one you're using, but also to keep track of what's going on, how you're actually using the club, sorry. All right. So at the start of the game, everybody will have 4 player pieces. One of them will immediately go onto the leaderboard on the even spot. So everybody will place one of their player pieces on the leaderboard, which means you will have 3 others at hand. Okay, as well as the club cards and your playing pieces, you will also be given a reference card, which shows you in terms of how far you hit the ball, also whether you earn skill tokens, but also it gives you other information. For example, what happens when you roll doubles or triples. Special effects happen with those. So you'll also have a reference card here. So in front of you, you will have 5 cards and 4 of your player pieces, but one of them will go on the leaderboard. Right, so as well as the common cards that everybody's going to be using and your own personal cards, which will be your clubs and a reference card, what else is there? What other cards are in this game? Well, you've got to have the holes, haven't you? You've got to have the golf course itself. Well, these are split into the hole cards themselves, but also the course cards. Now, the course cards are going to show you 9 holes, and there are 8 of these cards in the game. So what you will do is you will shuffle. Or select, I mean, if you want to select the one you want to play, not a problem, you can do that as well. But you could just do randomly and then see what the card shows you. So this would be maybe the front 9. Yeah? So in this case, they're all straight holes. You would then randomly select a second one if you want to play an 18-hole course. So you would select another one. Oh, this is a little bit boring. They're all straight. Hang on a sec. What's going on? Where's all the... Here we go. Let's say we pick this one for our back 9. So with this one, you'll notice that there are actually curves and corners, which makes it a little bit more interesting. So maybe this would be our 18-hole course for our game. Now, this would actually be a fairly long game, to be very honest with you. So if you only wanted to play a 9-hole course, just get rid of one of the holes. Let's get rid of this one. Right. So with the course card chosen, and again, there are 8 cards in the game that you can choose from. Plus, remember, you can actually design holes and courses based on real life holes and courses if you want to, but this is for the generic or the sort of random games you want to play. Now with this, you can then create and, what's the word? Compose the hole that you guys are going to be playing. So in this case, the first hole, hole number 1, let's bring it closer to the camera so you guys can actually see. So if we're using this card as our front 9, or maybe we're just doing a 9-hole session, hole number 1 is par 5. What that means is that it is, that's the usual amount of shots it takes to go from the tee to sinking the hole on the green. So it normally takes 5 shots to get from there to there. So we have the standard game with birdies and eagles and bogeys and all that sort of stuff, yeah? It also gives you the comparative yardage. So how long would this be? So this would typically be similar to a 555 to 705 yard hole. It also has a rating down here as well, just as a reference. Hole 2 is a par 4, 255 to 360 yard hole. Yeah. Also, you'll notice where the holes have these corners, you'll notice that it actually tells you the angle. So for these two, it's a 30-degree angle. This one has a 60-degree angle. Also on the card, again, I don't know whether you can see, I actually sleeve these cards, so the light might be playing a little bit of a problem. I don't know whether you can actually see, but there are actually separators here, and that shows you how many cards are used to create each hole. So like I said, I don't know whether you can see them. Bring it close to the camera. There you go, you can see it now. So for example, hole number 1 is going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards to create that hole. Hole 2 is going to use 1, 2, 3 cards. A tee card, a green card, and a fairway card. Now, speaking of those different types of cards, that's what we have here. We have 3 tee cards. Again, based on the design, it is possible for you to rotate to make it easier or harder. We have 6 different greens. Again, I do apologize. These are sleeved. And there's a lot of cards, so all the greens are different. Now, the greens are not 2 positions. Yeah, with the tee, you can actually rotate, so you can have the tee at the back here, which makes the course longer, or you could have the tee here, which would make the hole shorter. You can't actually do that with the greens. There is only one position that it links up with the fairway. Yeah, so you can't actually have this because there's nothing here to connect with the fairway. Yeah, that's the way it has to be. So this has to connect with the fairway. So for the greens, they are one position only, but you do have 6 different greens available. And again, when you're creating the hole, you can select if you want, but you could also get a random. Right, what else does we have? We have the fairway cards. So these will be the straight lengths that you'll connect to the tee, to the green, and possibly to the curves and corners. But for the fairways, we have 14 different cards. And again, you can randomize. And again, these can be rotated. So you have 2 possibilities for each card. And then finally, we have what we call the dog legs, or the curves, and you will have, 2 30-degree, so one going in each direction. You will have 2 45-degree, again, one going in each direction. You will have 2 60-degree, again, one for each direction, and 1 90-degree. Now, these ones you will not shuffle, you will not take random, you will select the one that is shown on the course card. So here I would use the 60-degree, in this position here, I would use the 60-degree card that goes right. So these are the cards that you will use to construct each hole based on the course card or the design that you have selected. And each card, like I mentioned just now, has a grid or a sort of set of circles that you will have your ball, come on focus, your ball will actually move on the grid, whether it's in the air or the ground, it will move on this grid to represent its position on the fairway, the tee, or the green, or if you're unlucky, in the rough. Right, I have in front of me here the cards that we are going to need for hole 4 on the course card that we selected earlier. Come on, focus, there we go. So we're doing hole 4, which is going to comprise of 4 cards, a tee card, fairway, green, and then the dog leg or the corner, 30-degree corner card there. So these are the cards I'm going to need for that. I've got my tee card, which was selected randomly, fairway, 30-degree corner, and the green. Now, I have also taken them out of the sleeves for the purpose of this video, because it was a bit shiny. Right, before we continue, just want to say a little bit on the penalties and hazards that you can find on the course or on the holes. Starting off, we have trees. Now, trees are a hazard for both air and ground movement. And if your ball goes into one of these spaces on the trees, your turn ends immediately. In other words, that stroke, that hit, stops immediately, and you automatically add an additional stroke to your hole score. More likely you're going to get a bogey here, +1, whatever. But that counts, and that's not good. Your next stroke or your next hit of the ball, you will have to place the ball following one of these arrows. Let me just grab the card so we can see clearly. You'll notice that on either side of the trees, you have these red arrows. These indicate where you can place the ball for your next shot. So if, for example, we're playing in this direction towards the green, my ball comes along and goes into that hole there. For example, bump, bump. We get from there, it goes into the trees there. My shot, that particular shot, that stroke ends immediately. I get +1 added to my score, my tally, my score. And then the next time I'm doing a stroke or doing a shot, I can then select to put the ball either here, here, or here, and then carry on with the next shot as normal. So I'm definitely going to try to bring it over to the right somehow before we continue over. Also, we have water hazards. Now, water hazards are only applicable to ground movement. If your ball is in the air and it moves over the water, it is fine. But any ground movement into the water, you also have that problem where your turn ends immediately. You get a +1 to your score, and you've basically got to take the shot again next turn. The third type of hazard is if you go off the hole. If, for example, your ball goes off the card. Same thing, turn ends immediately, +1 to your score, put the ball back in the rough where you went off, you continue as normal. Also, we have sand or bunkers. We've got 2 here, we've got 1 there. Now, bunkers have their own special rules. You don't automatically end your turn. You don't add +1 to your score, but they do have special mechanics for you to get out. Now, when your ball enters the sand, so again, let's say, for example, we're hitting the ball in this direction here, and your ball ends up there. Now, if it's air movement, you're still fine, carry on. But if it's ground movement, once you enter the sand, your ball stops. Okay, it stops. If on your club, let's say, for example, you are at this point here. We'll go through how we use the cards and what all these mean as we're playing the game. But let's say we're here. For every 2 spaces on your club card that you haven't used yet, you can actually move your ball in the sand 1 space to represent the forward velocity that hasn't been used yet. Yeah. If we went into the sand at this point, we only have 1 unused space. We do not get that extra 1 move. Now, when you are in the sand, you have to try to hit the ball out, obviously. And to do this, you've basically got to roll 3 dice. You select any iron, and you've got to roll 3 dice for the shot. Now, normally you have a choice of rolling 1 for a slow swing, 2 for a normal swing or medium swing, 3 for a fast swing. That normally gets you the most distance. However, when you're in the sand, you've got to roll 3 dice. Now, if you're using a wedge, you're doing it as normal, but you're going to get a -1 to the ground movements, okay? Air movements, you're still rolling the 3 dice as normal. So let's bring up the wedge card. So with the wedge card, you're going to have 3 movements, three opportunities to roll the dice and move the ball. 1 is in the air, so you're just rolling and taking the value. But on the ground, you also have a -1 to the movement. Sometimes it's a penalty, sometimes it's a good thing. For every other card, you're rolling 3 dice. Now, if you're not using a wedge, for all the other irons, if doubles come up, then your movement is 0. You do not move for that roll. Okay? So, it's not easy, trust me. It's really not easy. Sand is always a problem, even if you're using wedges. Sometimes when you roll that air movement, you can go for miles when you don't want to. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to explain how the game works. We're going to show how we use all the different cards. And to do this, I'm going to actually use one of the holes from the course card that we drew. And we're going to be using hole 4 as our demonstration. Now, hole 4 is, bring this to the camera so we can see. Hole 4 is par 4. It's representing a total distance of between 300 to 405 yards, rating of 3.5 or 4.1. Now, this hole is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. Now, it may look like 3, but it is actually 4 cards because we have to have the angle card in there as well. So it's a 30-degree angle, so I have selected the 30-degree angle card. Now, if you just have a straight hole, you'll just join them all together like that and everybody's happy. T card, fairway, green. But when you have a corner, or what they call a dog leg, you've actually got to put in the corner here. Now, these cards are designed very specifically. Now, if the corner or the dog leg is joining 2 fairway cards, then you put the first fairway here as you're going towards the green, and then you will attach the other fairway card here, lining up with this orange line. Okay? If this is connected to the green, it's a little bit different. If you're connecting one of these cards to the green card will always join this section here at the bottom of the corner. And the fairway will always come up and line up with this orange line here. So for our hole here, hole 4, which is a par 4 hole, I have to take this card and I essentially have to put it kind of upside down. Not really upside down, but I have to put it like this. I align the orange line with my fairway. Oops, there you go. Get in there. And then the green aligns with the bottom of the card, like so. And this would be the hole that I am going to be playing. So just remember, fairways are always lining up with the orange line. Greens never line with the orange line. They always line up with the edge of the card. If you are playing and this is connecting to 2 fairways, then the first fairway will go to the bottom. The second fairway will connect to that orange line. Easy, right? Well, yeah, it took me a few reads to actually understand what the hell was going on with that. So that's one of the tricky bits. But let's set up the hole and let's begin. So let's go there. We can go that like that. And that's not the green, that's the green there. And again, you'll notice that the green has only one orientation because there's no connection to a fairway here. Yeah? Greens will always have a connection to a fairway at one end of the card. That's the end you must use. All right, let me just double check on the orange line. Yep, we're on the orange line. Now, again, slippery cards because I sleeved them. Sorry about that. There may also be a little bit of shine as well. Again, apologies in advance. So what do we have here? Well, we've got the tee at this spot. We have some woods here. We have sand. We've got another couple of sand here, bunkers. I've got a total of 3 bunkers on this hole. We've also got a water hazard at the back of the green. Okay, with the hole all set up, we now have a couple of things to do before we can start hitting the ball. First thing to do is to determine what is the direction of the wind, and to do that you will roll a d6. In this case we get a 6. You will then place again the game recommends a blue marker, so you will put the blue marker on the number that you have rolled, in this case a 6. So this is now telling me what is the direction of the wind. So the wind for this hole is going to be blowing in that direction there. And this card should be aligned, I think, if I remember correctly, should be aligned with the fairway that is closest to the hole. I think this is how I've been playing it. Just keeps it simple. All right, so once that's done, the next thing you need to do before you can start hitting stuff is to choose a club. Now, you do have 4 club cards with a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different clubs to choose from. You have the putter, which is pretty useless on the tee. You've got a driver, which will be your normal choice from the tee because it gives you, or it can potentially give you more distance. And then you've got the different irons and a wedge. Now you'll notice that all these clubs have got different numbers of circles. So the putter has a single circle for ground movement and none for air movement. The driver has got 3 circles or 3 spaces for air movement and 4 spaces for ground movement. The 7 iron has 2 spaces for air, 2 spaces for ground. The 3 iron has 3 spaces for air, 3 for ground. Now, these spaces represent the number of times you're going to be rolling the dice to determine distance. So obviously, the more spaces, the more times you're rolling the dice, the more distance you can potentially get. And as you are rolling the dice, you have a choice. So let's say, for example, we're playing the driver. So you start off, you put another one of your player tokens on here, on the first space. In this case would be the first airspace for the driver. And then for each space on your club, you'll be rolling either 1, 2, or 3 dice. If you want to do a slow or soft swing, you roll 1 dice. If you want to do a medium or normal swing, 2 dice. If you want to do a fast or a hard swing, 3 dice. Now, obviously, fast or hard, you're going to be rolling 3 dice, chances of getting a further distance. Now, for the distance, you're actually going to be checking the reference card, the green card. At the top it says here, choose swing rate. Slow 1 dice, normal 2 dice, fast 3 dice. And then with the result, let's say for example I want to do a fast swing because I want to get as far as I can, the longest distance I can. So what you'll do for each of these spaces on your club, you will roll the dice, reference the card to see how far you move. So I get a total of 12. All right. So I look here and I look for 12 for the result and I see the effect is 3 spaces. So if that first roll is an air movement, I would move 1, 2, 3 spaces. But also on the club cards, you also have a row for tee and rough. So the tee will give you normally some kind of bonus if you're hitting from the tee. So in this case, we get a +1 with the driver. So we would move an extra 1 space. So we actually hit the fairway on that first hit or the first roll. For the rough, it has normally, I mean, for most of the clubs, it has these X's. What that does is it nullifies one of the spaces. In other words, it makes you hit lower distance. So you don't have as many rolls of the dice. So that is our first air movement. Now, it's not the completed hit of the ball, because the complete hit of the ball, including the air and the ground movement, is all of these. So we've got a lot more to do. So the second air movement, we roll. Oh my word. Okay, so we get sucks. Now, on the reference card, it actually tells us that for doubles, we ignore the result of the dice. We just take it as a double. So it could be a double 1, it could be a double 6. Doesn't matter. If you roll a double, you move 2 spaces plus 1 in the direction of the wind. So if this was a double, if I was only rolling 2 dice and I got a double, it doesn't matter if it's a double 6 or a double 1, I would move 2, let me use a different thing here. I would move 2 spaces and then 1 in the direction of the wind, which would be there. We, however, rolled 3 dice and got 3 6s, which is extremely rare for me. But again, it doesn't mean that I get an 18 and move it like 7 or 8 spaces. No, it's a triple. And again, for every triple, it's the same thing. You ignore the result, you move 2 spaces plus 1 against the wind. So in this case, we would move 2 spaces, and against the wind is in this direction. So we would actually move there. Yeah? So the ball would move 2 spaces plus 1 against the wind in this case. And that would be my second roll. But I'm still in the air. The ball is still moving. So we now go to our third air movement space. So we roll the dice again. We get a total of 8. So an 8, okay, 8 is good. As long as it's not a double, if we get an 8, we can move the ball 2 spaces in the direction we originally aimed. So we were initially aiming this direction. So we move it there, and we get a skill. What that means is we get an additional skill token. And these skill tokens can be put on the club that you're using, or in the case of the irons, you can put it on the iron that you're using, or one either side. So if you, for example, you're using a 5 iron and you roll an 8, not a double, That skill token could be put on your 5 iron, your 3 iron, or your 7 iron. With a driver, you've only got one option, so it would go here. Now, that was the third and final air movement. What does that mean? Well, what that means now is that sand and water become an issue. When it's in the air, sand, the bunkers, and the water hazards are not an issue because the ball goes over them. Trees, no, trees are a hazard to air as well. But now we are going to our first ground movement. So again, we would roll the dice, find the result, and move the ball however far we get. Now, in this case, I think I've got a double here. So it will be 2 spaces plus 1 in the direction of the wind, something like that. So that's what these markings on the clubs mean, and that's how we move the ball. Right, so that's hazards, and that's how to actually use the clubs and the dice to move the ball. Let's play a hole. So I am going to roll for the wind. So the wind is the direction of 5, so we're putting the token there. The wind is blowing right across the fairway in that direction there. So if I roll any doubles, the ball's going to be moving in that direction. If I roll any triples, it's going to be moving in this direction. Okay. Now, we've got our reference card here. Now, what club should I use? I think I'm going to use the driver, so I select my driver club. Now, I'm going to be doing this hole as if I don't start with any skill tokens. But when you play the game for reals, you actually start with 2 skill tokens from your allocated 6. You can start with 2. And you can put these on any cards of your choice. But just for the sake of simplicity, where should I? Yeah, okay, let's put 1 on here because I need to show you how the skill tokens work. Okay, so I'm going to put a skill token there. Maybe that's one of my starting 2 that I can allocate. And I'm going to be using my driver. Okay. So I need one of my player markers. Put it onto the first space for the club. Okay. We are on the tee, which is there. All right, everything's good. And that goes there, right. Okay. Now let's take a minute to go. I don't think I've explained the aim yet. All right, when you are playing this and when you're hitting the ball, you've got to determine the direction of your hit or your swing. So in this case, I'm going to be aiming the ball straight down the fairway here towards the corner or the dogleg, okay? However, the wind can take an effect. Like I mentioned earlier, if I roll a double, it's going to be moving slightly in the direction of the wind. If I roll triples, it's possibly moving against the wind, yeah? But what you can do is you can use the aim mechanic to kind of help in that aspect. So one of your player markers has to be used on the aim. You can either just aim straight, in which case you're not going to have any modifiers whatsoever, or you can choose to either draw or fade. Aim slightly left or slightly right. Now, there are 2 spaces on either side. You'll notice 1 space here and 1 space there. Now this is part of the mechanic that shows how much you're aiming left or right to compensate for the wind or whatever, yeah? And what you can choose to do is you can choose to aim slightly or heavily in that direction. Yeah? Slightly or heavily in that direction. How does it counteract the wind? Well, if you are aiming slightly to one side, what you will do in your first roll of the dice, so that first space, your ball will also move 1 space in the direction you're aiming. So for example, like here, if I rolled a distance of 2, for example, I move it 2 spaces plus the 1 for the tee. And because I'm aiming slightly to the left, the ball would also move 1 space in that direction. Okay. If I aimed right, the ball would move, again, depending on what you roll, maybe 2 spaces, plus 1 for shooting from the tee. And then it would move 1 space in the direction of your aim. over to there. So you can kind of counteract or cope with any possible move from the wind. What if I did a heavy aim? So in other words, I wanted to aim quite a lot in that direction. Well, in that case, that effect would take place in the first roll and the second roll. So in this case, if I'm aiming heavily to the right, and again, maybe I got a 2 for distance, I would move 2 spaces, plus 1 for shooting from the tee. And then, because I'm aiming to the right, I would move the ball 1 space to the right. For the second roll of the dice, maybe again, I got a distance of 2. So I move forward 2 in the direction that I was normally shooting. And no bonus from the tee this time, but I would have to move another in the direction I was aiming. For the third roll, just normal movement from now on. So that's how the aim works. Yeah. Right, let's get on. Let's actually start playing the game. Let's start playing the game. Before moving your ball, you can actually spend a number of skill tokens from the club to remove that many dice from a movement roll. Because by removing movement dice, it would give you a different result and give you a different distance, obvious. You could also discard any 3 skill tokens from any clubs you have to take a mulligan, in which case you return your ball to where you started and you play the shot again. Now, the only way to get skill tokens is from getting a result of 8 and not a double. So your use of your skill tokens, you've got to plan it, yeah? And it also carries from hole to hole, yeah? You don't suddenly get more skill tokens when you start a new hole. If you're going to be doing a 9-hole course, maybe you're doing the front 9, your skill tokens are going to follow you through all the holes. They don't reset with every hole. So use of your skill tokens and the gathering of more skill tokens is very important. Right, enough talking. Let's get on with the playing. So we are going to use a driver. I think I'm just going to do a medium shot or a normal shot, which is 2 dice. I'm just going to be rolling 2 dice. I'm going to play it a little bit safe. Now, do I want to aim? The wind is blowing in that direction. I don't have the possibility of rolling triples because I'm only rolling 2 dice. So the ball is not going to go in this direction unless I aim. But it could still go in that direction if I roll doubles. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to play safe. I'm going to aim slightly to the right. That would counter 1 doubles roll and 1 move with the wind. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. If I do more than that, there's a chance I'm going to get into the rough and then the sand, I think. So I'm going to keep it as it is for the time being. Right, so we're going to be rolling 2 dice. We're going to be checking the results here to see how far I'm moving. And I do have 1 skill token if I need it. Right. Is everything still in camera? I think it is. Right, let's go. So I have 3 air rolls and 4 ground rolls for my total shot. Right, let's roll first. First of all, we get a 4. So 4 is a movement of 1 plus 1 for the tee, and then I have to move 1 to the right because of my aim, but that's the only time. Because I only did a slight aim, I only do it for that first roll. Well, that's not very good, was it? Okay, second air roll. Now, I'm not getting the bonus from the tee this time, yeah? We get, oh my God, that's not good at all. A 3, 1 again. Not a very good drive, not a very good tee shot this at all. Again, we're not moving to the side any because the aim is now finished. Slight aim is only in the first roll. Oh dear. I need higher rolls. Right, third, I need to get on the fairway. The third air roll. Oh man, I'm running so low. Oh, hang on, it's a double. So it's a double, we have to go 2 plus 1 in the direction of the wind. Okay. And that's for any double. So 2 plus 1 in the direction of the wind. So we end up there. Okay. But now we're on the ground. So now it's bouncing. So now sand and water becomes a problem. So our first ground roll It's another double. Oh no. 2 plus 1 in the direction of the wind. Uh-oh. Those trees are looking a little bit worrying. All right, second ground roll. We get 9. 9 is 2. Third ground roll. I want to get past these trees. No! Oh no! It's a double. So 2 and then 1 in the direction of the wind. We hit the trees. Okay, now what that means is that my turn finishes. I don't get to do that last ground roll. So at the at the moment, my current score for this hole is 2 strokes. 1 for the hit, and I'm going to get an extra 1 because I hit the bloody hazard. That's not good at all. Now, like I say, that when you hit a hazard like that, whether it's the woods or water, your turn ends immediately or going off the course. So I don't get to do the final move. That is the end of that. Now hang on, actually hang on. I could use my skill token, couldn't I? That's what I think I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is I was there, didn't I? Yeah, so forget that. I'm not going to hit the trees. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my skill token and I'm going to get rid of one of those dice. What that does, it now doesn't make it a double. I'm only going to be moving 1 space because it's a total of 1, but it stops me from getting into those trees. Okay, that's good, but I've lost the skill token. I can't afford any more mistakes. So, I have 1 more left. Oh, thank God I remembered that. Okay, so I've got 1 more left. We're rolling the dice. We get... dice gods. Okay, so we get a total of 6, but it's a double. So the total doesn't matter. It's a double. So 2 plus 1 in the direction of the wind. Okay. So 2 plus 1 in the direction of the wind. Now, luckily, I missed the trees. So I don't get that penalty shot or that penalty point plus 1. But when I'm making my next shot, I'm going to start in the rough, which means I could possibly have an effect in terms of distance, in terms of how many times I roll the dice. All right. So that would be my first swing, my first shot for this hole. If you're playing multiplayer, now the other players would take it in turns to also tee off, roll their dice, and place their markers on the cards. Okay? Once everybody's done their first shot, you then go in order of who is the furthest away. So in this case, if I'm playing a 2-player game and the other player ended up here, I am furthest away from the hole, so I would then take the second shot first. But let's carry on as if it's just 1 player. So we are now in this location here. I want to go this way. So I want to go that way. It's still going to be a bit away from the hole, but I don't really want to go straight and then come down here. So I think I'm going to try and go in this direction. So I'm going to go down here, this way there. Okay. But I'm in the rough. So now I've got to select a card. Now, the 7 iron doesn't have a rough penalty. The 9 iron does. It's only, no, 2's no good. I'm going to need at least 1, 2, 3, at least 4, I think. So I'm thinking, what should I do? You see the 3 iron and the 9 iron have a penalty for the rough, but the 5 iron and 7 iron don't. Now, how many? I think I'm going to do a normal swing again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 5, which would mean 5. Okay, so I'm going to use a 5 iron. What that's going to give me is 2 air shots, or sorry, 2 air rolls and 3 ground rolls. So I'm going to be rolling the dice 5 times. I could do a 3 iron, but there's actually no point because in a rough you're losing that first first space anyway, that first roll. So I'm going to be using a 5 iron. Okay, again, should I have, okay, let's say I put my second skill token on the 5 iron, luckily. Okay, so we're shooting in this direction here, along the edge of the fairway here, and it's going to be along the edge of the green here. So I'm going to be doing a normal hit again, which again is 2 dice. So I'm just going to put the card up here so that we can see it. Yeah. Okay. So for the first, again, I'm going to have 2 air rolls and 3 ground rolls. So for the first air roll, I get a 9, which is 2 spaces. 1, 2. My second air, okay, I don't get the +1 because it's not a tee shot, yeah? So my second air shot, oh, wow, I get a 3, which is 1 space, so I'm there. My first ground, okay, so now I'm on the ground. My first ground shot is sorry, I was there, wasn't I? I got a 6, 2, 1, 2. My second ground roll, I get a 7, 2, 1, 2. Okay, now I'm a little bit worried. Because if I get another 2, I'm going to end up in the sand. So I need a 1 or a 4. All right, so my final ground roll, I need a 1 or a 4, because that technically is sand as well. So I need a 1 or a 4. I can't get a 4, so I need a 1. I need a low score. You swine. Okay, but it's an 8. And it's not a double, so I'll be moving 2 spaces, plus I would get a skill, another skill. Or I could use the skill token that I currently have, get rid of the 6 and make it a 2, which means I would move 1. But I wouldn't get the extra skill token, but I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to use the skill token to get rid of that 6, which means my total is now 2, which means I move 1 space. So I'm in the rough, but I'm not in the sand. And as you saw just a little while ago when I was going over the hazards, sands are bitches. Right, so that is that shot done. So I am now at a score of 2. Remember, because I didn't get the extra +1 from the trees. Remember, I used that skill token to miss that. So I've got a current score of 2. This is a par 4. Now, if I can pot the ball on this shot, I would be 1 under par, which is a birdie. But I would need, I can't, because you have to shoot in a straight line. And I can't do that. So I'm either going to be trying to get on the green here or onto the green here. I think this is the most likely outcome. The wind's going to be pushing me in that direction there. So yeah, I think this is the best choice, because then if the wind affects me, I'm going towards the hole. Now, I don't want a 1 or a 2 in the ground roll. So let's have a think. So I could use a 7 iron, which would give me 4 rolls. Now, if I'm rolling a single dice, that could work. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to use a 7 iron. I've got 2 air rolls and I've got 2 ground rolls. Now, I'm going to be using a slow swing. So I'm only going to be rolling one dice, which means I'm not going to have any wind effect. So what I'm going to do, sorry, the other shots I didn't modify the aim at all. But I think for this one, I think I will aim slightly, because with 1 dice I can't get doubles, so the wind's not going to blow me. Or blow the ball. Edit. I think I'm going to, sort of thing, I want it to go, no, because it's with the first roll, isn't it? I don't think I'm going to aim. Should I aim? So if the wind is going to, see, the wind affects my first roll. Air, ground. Okay, that could actually work. So I'm going to aim slightly to the left. Slightly to the left. So what that means is for my first roll, it's going to be moving one direction. that way. So it would go there, possibly. Okay. All right. So my first air, it's not a tee. It's in the rough, but there's no penalty for rough for a 7 iron. So we are going to roll. We get a 1. Okay, so a 1 is a distance of 1 space. So it goes here. Plus, I have aimed slightly to the left, so it's going to move 1 space to the left. Now that's, because I only did slightly, it's only taking effect on that first roll. Now, I've got my second air roll, which is a 6, which is 2 spaces. I didn't really want 2 spaces. Damn it. I wanted 1s, I didn't want 2s. My first ground roll, I'm going to go past the hole, aren't I? Nuts. My first ground roll, I get a 1, so that's 1 space. My second ground, I get another 1 space. So that's, oh, that 2 screwed it up for me. Okay, what do I do now? Well, now I'm on the green. I've got a score of 3, so if I can putt it now, I can get par. So, because we're on the green, we now want to use the putter. Now, the putter only has 1 roll, and it's a ground roll. Okay, but I need 2, because when you get into one of the spaces around the hole, if you get a total of 1 more movement, you can just basically put it into the hole. So I need a 2 to get into that hole. I've only got 1 roll. So do I want to roll 1, 2, or 3 dice? I need to get a total of 2. So 2s are from 6 to 10. 2 dice. I think 2 dice has the most chance of getting a 2. Okay. So I'm going to try putting here and then into the hole. So I need a distance of 2. I've only got 1 roll. Ah, come on, here we go. A 5. No! Ah, nuts. So I move 1. So that's par gone. You know, it's going to be for bogey. Okay, now for a bogey, I just need a distance of 1. So I'm going to be rolling 1 dice. I just need a 1. I got a 4, which is a 1. We pot, we get a bogey, 1 over. So in terms of score on the scorecard, the leaderboard, I would be placing, for this hole, I would be at a total of +1. And then everybody else who's playing would also sum up the number of strokes and then mark on the leaderboard their final score. Oh, I could have made par. Damn, close. But that is, and again, sorry for the putting, I wasn't aiming. That is how the game basically works. Again, reliance on dice, which is not good for me. But yeah, it's a clever little design. It does give you, in terms of club selection, in terms of aiming with or against the wind, in terms of the wind effects, it does actually translate that quite good into the game. And the fact that you have a lot of different holes and different course cards, and you've got 8 different course cards. You can also design your own holes, whether it's your own design or whether it's from a golf club that you belong to. Does give this game a certain amount of replayability. And like I say, you'll be either selecting or picking at random, you know, the course cards. There seems to be a lot of straights, not a huge amount of, I mean, there's only, maybe that is one little problem with the course cards, in that there are only, there's only 1, 2, there's only 3 course cards where you actually have bends or dog legs. Yeah, the one I was using just here, and 2 others. The rest are all straight. So I don't know, maybe come up with maybe 1 or 2 more which have curves or bends or dog legs. But yeah, it's a nice little game, and like I say, it's I mean, if you manage to print double-sided, I'm pretty sure you can fit it all into one box. but because I had to print single-sided on card and combine, I actually ended up with 2 boxes. But it's a nice little compact game. It does give some feelings of golf, but obviously it doesn't have the nature, being outside, physical elements of golf, and that manual physical skill of actually hitting the ball and stuff. I mean, rolling dice is one thing, but actually swinging the club to actually hit the ball, that takes practice. But yeah, I mean, as a game, I really do like this. I think it's a nice little game. Highly recommended because it's free. So yeah, another game that I recommend, something a little bit different. Not sure how many views this video is going to get. I think most of my viewers are fantasy and sci-fi orientated, but sometimes we need a change, you know. Sometimes we need to play games that are not fantasy or sci-fi. Maybe we want to do some kind of telenovela or sports games, you know. It makes a nice little change. Maybe we have friends or family, you know, who are into these kind of things. Anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, please consider clicking the subscribe and clicking the like button. I would really appreciate that. Plenty more videos on the channel, plenty more to come. So until the next video, guys, thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Cheers.